Soft voices don't lose control over room. Unregulated emotions do. Calm feminine presence doesn't compete. It quietly takes the lead. Most people misunderstand calm feminine softness because they confuse it with silence, passivity, or fear. They assume that when a woman speaks gently, pauses before responding, or chooses restraint, she is holding herself back. In reality, what they are witnessing is not absence of power, but presence of control. Emotional regulation is the ability to feel deeply without being ruled by those feelings, and when this regulation is embodied through softness, it becomes one of the most sophisticated forms of strength. This is not about suppressing emotion, but about choosing when, how, and whether to express it. A regulated woman still feels anger, disappointment, frustration, and hurt, but those emotions do not hijack her behavior. She decides her response instead of reacting automatically. Softness rooted in regulation changes the internal experience first. Instead of rushing to defend, explain, or correct, the regulated mind pauses. That pause is where power lives. It allows the nervous system to settle, the breath to slow, and the body to remain grounded even when the environment is tense. From that grounded place, words carry more weight because they are not charged with desperation or urgency. People often say that calm people feel safe to be around, but what they are actually sensing is predictability and steadiness. When someone does not swing emotionally with every stimulus, others subconsciously relax around them. This is why softness is not submission. Submission is giving away agency. Regulation is holding agency firmly while remaining composed. A woman who is emotionally regulated does not need to dominate a conversation to be influential. She doesn't interrupt, raise her voice, or push her point aggressively, yet her presence subtly directs the interaction. Her tone sets the pace. Her pauses invite reflection. Her calmness interrupts emotional escalation. This is leadership at a nervous system level, not a performance level. Many conflicts intensify, not because of the issue itself, but because emotions spiral unchecked. Raised voices, sharp words, and reactive behavior signal threat to the brain. When threat is detected, logic shuts down and defensiveness takes over. A calm, soft response does the opposite. It signals safety. It tells the other person, without saying it directly, that there is no danger here. As a result, the other nervous system begins to mirror that calm. This is not manipulation, it is regulation influencing regulation. Emotional states are contagious, and the most regulated state in the room often becomes the dominant one. Softness also protects the woman herself. Emotional regulation prevents internal damage caused by constant reactivity. When someone repeatedly reacts, explains, or proves themselves, they expend energy and often feel drained afterward. Regulated softness conserves energy. It allows a woman to engage without absorbing emotional chaos that does not belong to her. She does not take responsibility for managing everyone else's feelings. She manages her own, and that boundary alone creates respect. Another misconception is that softness means avoidance. In reality, emotionally regulated softness allows for honesty without aggression. Boundaries can be communicated calmly. Disagreements can be expressed without hostility. A woman can say no without apology, disappointment without drama, and truth without cruelty. The strength is not in the volume of her voice, but in the clarity of her self-trust. She does not fear emotional expression, but she also does not let emotions spill uncontrollably into every interaction. This form of power is often invisible to those who equate strength with force, but those who are perceptive feel it immediately. They notice that conversations slow down around her. People listen more carefully. Interruptions decrease. Even dominant personalities unconsciously adjust. This happens because regulated softness cannot be easily challenged. There is nothing to push against, no emotional hooks to pull, no reactivity to provoke. When someone tries to escalate, they are met with steadiness instead of resistance, and escalation loses its fuel. Emotionally regulated softness is also deeply attractive, not in a superficial sense, but in a human one. It signals maturity, self-awareness, and inner security. It suggests that this person is not controlled by the environment, opinions, or moods of others. In a world saturated with emotional volatility, This steadiness feels rare and grounding. People may not consciously understand why they feel drawn to it, but their nervous system does. This kind of softness is cultivated, not inherited. It comes from self-work, reflection, and learning to sit with discomfort without acting impulsively. It requires practicing pause, developing emotional literacy, and choosing long-term self-respect over short-term relief. Reactivity often feels satisfying in the moment, but regulation builds power over time. Each moment a woman chooses calm over chaos, she strengthens her internal authority. Importantly, this softness does not disappear under authority. Importantly, the softness does not disappear under pressure. It becomes more visible. When situations become intense, emotionally regulated individuals stand out because they do not match the intensity around them. Their calm does not crack easily. This consistency builds trust. Others learn that this person is stable, reliable, and not governed by emotional swings. Over time, people defer to that stability, not because they are forced to, but because it feels natural. At its core, calm feminine softness is alignment between inner state and outer expression. There is no disconnect between what is felt and what is shown, only discernment. The woman is not performing calmness. She is calm. She is not silencing herself. She is choosing precision. She is not avoiding conflict. She is approaching it from a place of control rather than impulse. This alignment is what makes the softness powerful, because it is authentic rather than strategic. When emotional regulation becomes embodied, softness stops being a tactic and becomes an identity. The woman no longer wonders how she should respond. Her nervous system already knows. Calm becomes her default, not her effort. In conversations, this shows up as measured speech, intentional listening, and a refusal to be pulled into unnecessary emotional battles. She does not need to win arguments because she is not seeking validation through conflict. Her self-worth is internal, non-negotiated in dialogue. This is why calm feminine softness is not weakness. Weakness is being at the mercy of every emotional trigger. Strength is remaining centered when those triggers appear. Softness is simply the visible expression of that strength. When a woman masters her emotional world, her external world responds differently. Conversations change shape around her. Energy shifts without instruction, and influence happens quietly, steadily, without force. Soft presence has a way of reshaping conversations without announcing itself. It doesn't enter a room trying to lead, persuade, or control, yet it often becomes the emotional center of the interaction. Influence without force begins at the level of energy, not language. Before words are even exchanged, people subconsciously read tone, posture, pace, and emotional stability. A soft presence communicates steadiness. It signals that there is no urgency, no threat, no need to rush or defend. This alone changes how others show up in the conversation. Force relies on pressure. It pushes ideas forward, demands attention, and often creates resistance. Soft presence does the opposite. It creates space. In that space, people feel less challenged and more willing to listen. When someone is not trying to overpower a conversation, others don't feel the need to protect their position. Defensiveness lowers naturally. Voices soften. The emotional volume of the room adjusts to the calmest frequency present. This is not coincidence. Nervous systems are constantly co-regulating with each other. Explanation is often mistaken for clarity, but excessive explaining usually signals insecurity. When someone explains too much, they are often trying to manage how they are perceived or to control the outcome of the interaction. Soft presence does not chase understanding. It trusts that what needs to be understood will land without force. When words are minimal and intentional, they carry more weight. Silence becomes a tool, not an absence. Pauses allow others to process, reflect, and fill the space themselves, which creates deeper engagement than being talked at. Control in conversations is often attempted through dominance, interruption, or emotional intensity. Soft presence relinquishes the need for control and, paradoxically, gains influence. When a woman remains calm and grounded while others escalate, she does not follow them upward. She stays where she is. That contrast alone becomes regulating. People unconsciously match her pace because escalation feels unsupported. There is nothing to argue against, nothing to push off of. The conversation either settles or exhausts itself. This kind of influence is subtle because it is not performative. It does not announce boundaries loudly, yet boundaries are felt. A soft presence does not tolerate disrespect, but it does not react to it either. The lack of reaction communicates self-respect more clearly than confrontation ever could. When someone realizes they cannot provoke an emotional response, they adjust their behavior or disengage. Either outcome protects the calm individual without effort. Soft presence also shifts power dynamics. In many conversations, the loudest or most emotionally charged person appears dominant, but dominance is not the same as authority. Authority comes from self-possession. When a woman speaks calmly, without rushing, without defending her right to speak, people intuitively grant her authority. She is not asking for the floor. She already owns her space. This ownership is felt rather than declared. Influence without force requires comfort with uncertainty. Soft presence does not try to control how the conversation ends. It allows outcomes to unfold. This lack of attachment to being right or winning creates psychological freedom. Others sense that freedom and often mirror it. Conversations become less about victory and more about understanding. Even disagreement feels less charged because it is not framed as a threat to identity. There is also a temporal element to soft influence. Force seeks immediate results. Soft presence works over time. Its impact accumulates. People remember how they felt around someone more than what was said. A calm interaction leaves the nervous system settled, not activated. Over repeated interactions, this creates trust. People begin to seek out that presence because it feels regulating, grounding, and safe. Influence grows quietly, without campaigns or persuasion. In group settings, soft presence often becomes the stabilizing anchor. While others react to each other, the calm individual remains steady. She listens fully, responds selectively, and does not feel compelled to fill every silence. This restraint shifts group dynamics. Conversations slow down. People become more thoughtful. The group unconsciously defers to the person who is not emotionally pulled in every direction. Soft presence does not mean lack of conviction. It means conviction without aggression. A woman can hold strong views and still express them gently. The absence of force does not dilute the message. It sharpens it. When a point is delivered calmly, it is harder to dismiss as emotional or irrational. It stands on its own. Others may disagree, but they are more likely to respect the position because it was not imposed on them. This is why soft presence often disarms even difficult personalities. People who rely on conflict for control find no traction. There is no emotional leverage, no escalation, no reward. Over time, they either soften or disengage. Both outcomes preserve the calm individual's energy. She does not have to fight for peace. Her presence establishes it. Influence without force is deeply tied to self-trust. A woman who trusts herself does not need to convince others aggressively. She is not dependent on external validation to feel secure. This internal stability is what others respond to. It creates an unspoken credibility. People may not articulate why they listen, but they do. Soft presence also allows for adaptability. Because it is not rigid, it can respond flexibly to different personalities and situations. It listens before acting. It observes before speaking. This responsiveness makes communication more effective. Words are chosen based on what is needed, not on emotional impulse. This precision increases impact. Ultimately, soft presence reshapes conversations because it operates at a deeper level than words. It works through emotional signals, pacing, and restraint. It does not compete with chaos. It outlasts. It does not demand influence. It becomes influential. Without force, without explanation, without control, the calm presence quietly guides the direction of the interaction, leaving others changed without fully realizing why.